Viva Buddy is okay, maybe not as bad as I expected, but the pacing is terrible. This is a Warner Brothers buddy cartoon from 1934. It's directed by Jack King and written by Melvin Miller with a voice cast including Billy Bletcher and Jack Carr. And this is set in Mexico, and my first thought was, is this going to be offensive? Actually, while there are some stereotypes, it's nowhere near as bad as I thought for a Warner Brothers cartoon in the 1930s. So that was a somewhat pleasant surprise, I guess. But at the same time, it's not a good cartoon, really. The concept is interesting enough. Buddy is trying to save this girl, this female character, from an unpleasant character. And they have a bit of a fight, and it takes, I'd say, two-thirds of the cartoon to get to that point. It's all setting up until then. And yes, we need some time to set the scene, absolutely, but not about two-thirds of the cartoon. And then it just concludes before it's even begun, and it's absolutely ridiculous. So it's not a good narrative. It could have been if they sorted the pacing out, but I cannot really say that it's a decent film or a decent cartoon because it isn't. The animation is not too bad, the music is decent enough, the narrative is a good enough concept, but the execution is horrific. So I'm kind of disappointed because, yes, on the one hand, it was nowhere near as bad as I'd feared because there are other cartoons from Warner Brothers from around this time where the stereotypes are just impossible, whereas this one is not as bad as it could be. So, on the one hand, it wasn't as bad as I thought, but in terms of the narrative, it is significantly worse than I expected. So, I can't recommend it unless you're a Buddy fan and want to watch every Buddy cartoon because it is watchable, but it's not an enjoyable experience. So, unfortunately, Viva Buddy is just not a decent it's not a decent animation, it's not a decent story. It had potential, but it needs a lot of work. It needs tidying up, it needs a better pacing, and a few other small tweaks here and there. But I feel like it's not worth checking out unless you're a Buddy fan. But if you're not that bothered about Buddy, then I'd say it's definitely one that's worth just giving a miss.